Allegations against Donald Trump tonight, and they could create new political and legal problems for him.
Yeah, the Washington Post is reporting tonight that Mr. Trump personally ordered his staff to hide the truth about his son's meeting with Russians at Trump Tower last year.
KCAL 9 political reporter Bryan joins us now with the very latest on this developing story. Dave.
We've talked to legal experts, prosecutors, and it looks like this may be part of a drip, drip, drip syndrome like Watergate, but not necessarily. Donald Trump has always said he never did anything with the Russians during the campaign, but tonight the Post reports he did mislead the country when reporters found out his son Donald met with Russians who promised him dirt on Hillary Clinton.
We're negotiating NAFTA and some other things with Mexico.
While President Trump was negotiating on the sidelines of this month's G20 summit, the Washington Post reports, his advisors were discussing how to respond to a new revelation that Donald Trump Jr. met with a Russian lawyer during the 2016 presidential campaign at Trump Tower. The advisors concluded the president's son should release a truthful statement about the meeting, a statement that couldn't be repudiated later if more details emerged. But the paper reports the next day on the flight home that all changed. The Post reporting flying home from Germany on July 8 aboard Air Force One, Trump personally dictated a statement in which Trump Jr. said he and the Russian lawyer had primarily discussed a program about the adoption of Russian children when they met in June 2016. That, according to multiple people with knowledge of the deliberations. A misleading statement, the paper says, which was given by Donald Trump Jr. before he walked back that statement over the next few days when it became clear in email exchanges that Trump Jr. accepted the meeting after he was promised damaging information about Hillary Clinton as part of a Russian government effort to help his father's campaign. Washington Post reporter Carol Leonig, who worked on the story, told MSNBC what this means.
What is striking about what we have learned is that the president did not want to describe the actual story of what happened, and he had not just a hand in it, but the most important hand in it. And he issues this statement that doesn't provide a fulsome argument, doesn't explain what the meeting was really about, doesn't explain in a clear way why Donald Trump Jr. showed up that day.
We talked by telephone with former federal prosecutor and current Loyola Law School professor Laurie Levinson, who said the special counsel will be looking at this as part of a bigger picture of behavior.
I don't know that it will lead to any type of criminal charges against President Trump. Robert Mueller is looking at exact that. He's not looking at just one incident and saying, is that a crime? He's looking at the overall behavior and saying, is this put together with other things that happened enough to show that there was either a scheme to obstruct justice or commit some other violation.
Now, the Post report is based on unnamed sources so far. Tonight, no reaction, no tweets from the president on this report. His personal attorney said the story is not accurate and of no consequence. Jeff, Lena, back to you.